What is going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down episode 102.0. And today I have with me Matt.
Hello, friends.
And we are playing through the game Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, we found it.
Yeah, we found it. It's now found Odyssey. Yeah, we're lame, but it was actually suggested to us by a listener, particularly Chad, who, when we were doing our Game of the Year, or not Game of the Year, our 100th game deliberations, he challenged us with a better choice than the Ocarina of Time. Now, unfortunately,
put forward quite a case.
He did put forward quite a case. Unfortunately, we had already chosen Ocarina of Time, and I still think we did the right thing. We played a game that we both really wanted to play. Matt, I know it was kind of special for you because you'd never played a Zelda game before, so I feel like we did a good job there. But
it's one gap in my life filled.
As I said when we read off that email, we would definitely get to Lost Odyssey this year. Well, we're getting to it right now. So even though this is kind of the year of the Yakuza game, we are taking a break in between Yakuza games to do another game. That's kind of like a palate cleanser. Well, what better way than a 50-hour RPG? So yeah, Lost Odyssey. Developed by Mistwalker Studios for exclusively the Xbox 360. In fact, I don't believe you can play this game anywhere else. Just on Xbox.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Released in February 12th of 2008 in North America. It's got some big names in it. So Mistwalker were people from the original Final Fantasy team. Particularly Sakaguchi, as well as the composer Nobuo Uematsu, who is probably my favorite video game composer of all time. And
it's the name that sticks out for sure.
His music shines in this game. If you remember correctly, Mistwalker also did a previous Phoenix Down game, Blue Dragon. And if
I had one desire going into this game, it's that I would like it more than Blue Dragon.
I think you will. I didn't mind Blue Dragon. I hated the characters in Blue Dragon.
Yeah, I didn't like the characters or the art style.
Yeah, particularly Maru, I believe was his name.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, hated him. I really hated him. Yeah. So, Lost Odyssey. History with the game itself. I did not play this game in 2008 when it released. I played it. I was living with my roommates at the time, so that would have been between 2008 and 2011. I want to say it was probably about 2009, maybe late 2009. I played this game. I started it, got through disc 1, and I believe partially through disc 2. Now, I do remember the part where I got stuck in this game. And then I eventually just said, there's other games to play, and I abandoned it. The part that I got stuck at, if I remember correctly, we were running around a haunted house. I think was what it was, like a haunted mansion or something like that.
Interesting.
But I can't remember exactly where that was. And to be honest with you, I don't remember much of this game other than it features immortals. And a friend of mine told me I really needed to finish this game because he says that Gongora, who is turning out to be the villain of this game, is one of his favorite villains of all time in video games because of his motivations. So that's always been intriguing to me. Got a decent amount into it, but never actually finished it. Matt, what about you?
Well, as with many of the games lately, I feel like I don't have much history. I'm trying to think. I don't even think I had a 360 at this point. Maybe I did. But I definitely wasn't playing it. I mean, this was when I was in grad school, halfway through grad school. So I'm pretty sure I did not have a 360. I only had the PS3. Looking at the games that came out around this time, I think I was pretty heavy on the PS3 and specifically the PSP. So it looks like Crisis Core on the PSP came out right around the same time, and I was pretty heavy into that. And a few other games. Metal Gear 4 came out that year. I was pretty heavy on the PSP and the PS3, I think, at that time. So it was a game that I certainly wished I could play at the time, just knowing that there were some of these big RPGs that weren't available on the PS3. But I guess as like a self-defense mechanism, I couldn't play it, so I just kind of ignored it.
Right.
I mean, I knew it was coming out, but I was like I have zero way to play this, so didn't really think too much about it, really. So I knew I always wanted to play it since it came out. The cover art looks cool. The 5-second snippet of what the game is and who's in it sounds cool. So I've always been intrigued and heard good things, reasonably good things. Just never had a chance to explore it.
Right.
And so I haven't really done anything with it until now.
Well, at least you were familiar with it.
Oh, Valkyria Chronicles came out a month and a half later.
That was a great game. That was a really good game. I love that game. I did a podcast featuring that game. It was a game club podcast with another guy. Oh man, Quality Beats goes by on Twitter. I don't ever know what happened to that podcast. I think we only did Valkyria Chronicles, and that was it. But yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah, that Haze came out just after that.
Oh boy,
which we've also done.
Yeah, that's a heck of a 2008. Was it? No, it was 2007. Was like the Renaissance. It was 2008 was good too, but 2007 was like the creme de la creme.
Yep.
For that generation, I feel like.
Burnout Paradise came out the month before this game, so I definitely was busy with some of these other games.
Yeah, Burnout Paradise. Oh man, that was a good one too.
Put a lot of time into that.
I did too. I platinumed that game.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so Lost Odyssey. I guess we should just jump into... Well, all right, before we start jumping into the story, let's explain a few things first. So, Lost Odyssey is a turn-based role-playing game, very reminiscent of certain Final Fantasy games. It is... it's not an active time battle, it is a sequence battle system. Where, I guess, depending on initiative, even though I don't see that stat anywhere... Unless it's like speed.
I don't know how they fold that into, right, spells and attacks all have their own kind of charge times, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically you choose what all your characters are going to do, and then the enemies choose what they're going to do, and then you have a lineup. This guy's going to hit first, this guy, then this guy, then this guy. The big twists here are that magic spells take a little bit longer to cast, and depending on
tell me about it.
Yeah, depending on the spell itself, it could take multiple turns to do. On top of that, there is also a active system in this game much like the Paper Mario or the Mario and Luigi series that we've played previously. And it's called the ring system. A ring system is you can equip a character with a specific ring that does a thing, an ability of some sort, whether it be better attack damage or now this attack has fire damage to it or something like that. And if a character has a ring equipped, when they attack, and I should say when they actually physically attack, not use magic, when they attack, a ring shows up on the screen, and another ring, I wouldn't say slowly, quickly goes into the other ring. And you're trying to time with the right trigger, holding down the right trigger, and then releasing the right trigger whenever the two rings basically overlap each other. And depending on how accurate you are with that, it may do more damage. It may... So I'm still confused on this system. Obviously, it does more damage, but like say I have the ring that adds fire to my attacks. I have noticed that even if I didn't do well on the ring thing, it still added fire damage.
Even if you specifically did poorly, or you got good but not perfect?
Maybe good but not perfect, so maybe that's the case. Yeah. If I did bad, it may not happen at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Yeah. So there's that you have to keep in mind, and there's an entire crafting system wrapped around that. So you can craft better rings. Sometimes it requires a basic ring in the formula using like crafting materials that you find out in the world, both through winning battles as well as just finding them in areas.
Yeah, which I like because it seems like some games I feel like they wall some of that stuff off where like you need, let's say, a recipe or a set of instructions, then you need the components, then you need to be a certain skill level. They're just kind of popping up in your menu as you go. I don't exactly know if it's a level that triggers it or if it's picking up any component almost automatically triggers the ability to see the ring that you can make, and then you just need to acquire the right number of components.
I'm guessing it's once you get all the components necessary for it, not necessarily the right amount of components, but if you have if it requires 3 components, if you have all 3 of those, it will show up saying, oh, you need like 5 of these in order to craft this kind of thing.
Yeah, but I've definitely had some rings show up even when I have no components for it. Huh. Or only 1 out of 3 components for it.
Interesting.
So I kind of like that even if I can't make it yet, I feel like I'm gaining access to a bigger and bigger library of potential in the future.
Yeah. There is another mechanic in this game, which is the skill learning. So... you have 2 different types of characters in this game. You have mortals and you have immortals. Immortals do not learn skills or abilities on their own. They have to basically skill link with a mortal person and learn it that way. Or you can have them equip a certain type of accessory and they will learn that skill. They do this by every time you complete a battle, you get SP, which is skill points, that then go to whatever is equipped or whatever you're trying to learn at that moment. So, to begin with, Kaim, who is an immortal, will not have any type of magic abilities. But if he skill links with Jensen, who is a mage who knows magic to begin with, he can learn whatever you choose. So like level 1 black magic or level 1 white magic, or learn how to steal. So there's skills and there's magic in this game. I don't mind that, especially when it comes to like passive stuff. So if you have like, I found later on, which was the yellow band,
Yep.
which was an accessory that I could equip onto one of my immortals. They were essentially learning prevent paralysis, which is very useful. And I equipped it to Kime and did some battles, got enough SP to learn that ability, then removed it, then equipped it to Kime, like the skill itself. So now he has prevent paralysis no matter what. And then I gave
and you can kind of share that one item around.
Exactly. And that's basically what I did. But here's the kicker. There's only a limited amount of skill slots. Now we're playing D&D here. So there's only a certain amount of skill slots for each character. And I don't think Immortals don't have skill slots at all, right? Or do they?
I thought they did.
So I gave Jensen the yellow band, but he's not learning that skill. You just have to leave it equipped on him.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I need to do a little bit more investigating. But that's pretty much all the mechanics, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the skills and the learning and the fact that you need to link them up with people or items. It doesn't feel necessary to me, really. It kind of feels a bit like, let's say I'm farming and I'm tending my flowers and I'm planting seeds and waiting for them to grow. It seems a little bit like busy work, but I do like that it's, that yellow band is a bit of a limited resource, and the fact that you can kind of multiply its value by learning its skill. I went into it, I definitely felt like it was busy work, but I also still felt fairly satisfied when I was popping new abilities and learning them and assigning them. I felt like I had a lot to micromanage, but that it was progress, right? And I felt like I was making my characters better and actively contributing to their growth, which felt reasonably satisfying.
Sure. So that I feel like the skill learning is part of the grind. Yep. Like how you grind for levels, which that's another mechanic in this game I forgot to mention, is that each area has a designated recommended level. So if you go into a new area and you're level 12 and you defeat some enemies and your experience goes up, you level up to level 13. Eventually, if you hit level 14, that's the recommended level. So if you hit level 14 and continue to grind, the game basically only gives you like 2 XP for a battle. Basically, the game is telling you, move on. You are at the right level to do everything you need to do in this area. I'm okay with that to a point.
Yeah, I'm a little torn. I like that it's gently pushing me forward, but as I've said with most of these RPGs, if I go into a play session knowing that I want to grind because, hey, I tried this boss and they just kicked my butt, what I want to do next is just grind for a session or two and then I'll go back and try again. To not have that ability feels a little bit like a handicap.
It can be, but there's also another aspect of you, Matt, because I've known you for years, and you say this a lot. You like getting beat by a boss a couple of times.
Yep. For me, that's the perfect difficulty level. Beat me once, once or twice, let me figure out what I need to do better, and do it better, and then I'll feel like I've actually learned something and improved. And
that's what this game does.
Yep.
It makes sure you're not overpowered. It's giving you a challenge.
Yep. And I think I messaged that in the email I sent you. I've died one time at every single boss we fought.
Yeah.
And I've not died a second time at any of them. So to me that's so far kind of perfectly calibrated for my tastes.
So there you go. I don't like the fact that I can't just get overpowered with some resilience. But,
yep.
I'm not that determined, I guess. But so let's go ahead and get into the story and the game itself. After talking about all the mechanics of it, I feel like it's simple mechanics, but they get complex later on.
Yeah,
and that's
I feel like they're mechanics that must be managed. Like if you forget to start pulling skills from an ability from a character, I feel like at some point you're going to be screwed, and then it's going to take you a long time. Like that's where you might have to grind.
Yeah.
So again, if you can't grind for XP, then you have to grind for the SP.
For these skills, yeah. I really hope it's not one of those, because like I said, I've never beaten this game. I haven't gotten overly far into it, but I really hope that we're never put in a situation where I am, and I think that's what happened in my last time I tried this game, was that I obviously don't have the right setup for what the game needs me to have.
Yeah, and if you haven't done things right, I feel like you can find that mismatch and just be hugely disadvantaged.
Right.
And you can't compensate just by grinding.
Right. So, I guess we start with the game's opening, which is
fairly bold.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, it starts off with a giant battle, Lord of the Rings-esque, multiple forces going at each other.
If I could graph my excitement while playing this game, this was about the low point. I'm like, it's a battle. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who these people are. I don't know which side to root for. I don't know the mechanics. There's no build up. I'm already fighting. This is like my Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't want to be shooting aliens until I know why I'm shooting them. Here I'm like, why am I slaying these people? I don't want to do this until I know why. They do roll it back, but my first impression was like an eye roll, essentially.
So essentially what this was, this entire first little battle cutscene thing was to establish something really bad happened. So during this battle, we have our main protagonist, which is Kaim, who is fighting for the, how do you pronounce it? Ura?
Yeah, Ura
army. And it's established a little bit later on, he's basically a mercenary. He doesn't particularly go with whoever.
Yeah, it is a bit of an interesting silent type to start because like I said, you don't know why he's fighting. You really don't know anything about him at all. To be fair, he doesn't either. But going into this, it's really just fight and don't ask questions.
Yeah, but it's a massive battle between two guys, two armies. We have kind of like a mini boss fight with this large magical machine. Which is something that I should mention, is that in this game it's very reminiscent of maybe Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 7, where they are basically using both magic and technology combined together. But anyway, so this is basically like the tutorial showing you how to attack, how to defend, how to do this. But the big thing that happens here is during this battle, there is a storm that brews instantly above everybody in this kind of like in this, it's almost like a valley where they're fighting. And the sky opens up and a giant meteor falls from the sky, and this meteor's covered with lava.
Yeah, it's crazy because the clouds part for it. I didn't even know it was a meteor at first. I thought it was somehow they were like underground, or this was the ceiling, or they had somehow pulled like the moon into them because it's huge.
Yeah, it fills up this entire valley. But and it crashes down on the entire battle, killing everyone.
Yeah.
And I mean everyone. With the exception of one person. There was one other person that survived. They said that specifically.
Yep.
Except for Kime, the main character. So we don't know just yet. I mean, according to the game, we don't know just yet. Everybody knows what this game's about, basically. Kime was not killed because, well, he is an immortal. So, Kime awakens. I don't know why he's just not, buried alive forever under this.
Yeah.
Still can't figure that one out. But he basically traverses through this valley. Everyone's dead around him. He makes it to a camp, like a little makeshift camp where some of the Ura forces are. And everybody's kind of shocked. Oh, man, you're the only one making it out of there alive. And we head back to the capital, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
There was another survivor there. And Kime notices her. And she notices him, especially. Almost as if she recognizes him. Which we find out a little bit later on, but this is Seth.
Yeah, and you definitely get a sense, even though neither one of them can remember the past, there's definitely some either general connection or they know each other specifically in the past. They just can't remember how.
Right. So Seth is, as we learn, is also an immortal. But we have to meet with the council once we make it back to do like a debriefing of what happened.
I was trying to understand their travel car when they were in it, because when they showed it from the outside, I'm like, it looks a little bit like the TARDIS. It doesn't look that big from the outside.
Yeah.
The inside looks way bigger, but then I guess it just is bigger than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, it's they got some weird looking vehicles in this game.
Yeah. And I guess I just chalk it up completely to magic. I'm like, it doesn't even seem like physics would allow this thing not to fall over, but I guess magic trumps physics.
There is a lot of magic in this game. So we get called to the council. And we have to walk through this entire city following these guys, and it's kind of like our little introduction to walking around and stuff like that. But also, there are tons of things to collect.
Yeah, every single little pot you can look into, posters you can rip off the wall. Yeah, there are a lot of things. Piles of rubble.
Yep. You can just walk into stuff. You can kick it. Yeah, so making it to the council. The council is there, and they are also talking to this other man named Gongora. Now they're originally talking with Kime, asking him about the mission itself, what happened exactly. Kime's like a giant meteor came out of the sky, crashed everywhere, and like, well, how did you survive? And Gongora then pops up and says, he's actually an immortal. And they're like, well, how did he become immortal? And Gongora just straight up comes out and says, oh, I made him immortal.
Yeah.
And I'm just, for some reason, I thought it was a revelation later on that we found out that Gongora made him immortal.
Seems like it should be.
Yeah, but I'm just like, oh, okay. All right, I don't remember that, but all right. He's like, yeah, I made him an immortal using magic. And so that's the reason why he was able to survive this. And the council basically comes to the conclusion they believe that this giant magical tower known as Grand Staff, which is kind of like Gongora's kind of like his main project that he's been working on, which it utilizes the magical energy in the earth to basically power technology, do all sorts of stuff, live comfortable lives, much like the Shinra Corporation. And I wonder if they're pulling too much magical energy, aka the life stream. I don't know. I'm speculating at this point, but it does have a lot of reminiscence of Final Fantasy VII. So they come to the conclusion they believe that Grand Staff may have caused this issue because there was something that happened at Grand Staff recently, like a disruption, that they don't know exactly what happened.
And they've lost contact with the people, right?
Yeah, they stopped. I think it was like 4 days earlier or something like that. They lost contact with the people at Grand Staff. So the council thinks it's probably best that Gongora doesn't leave town. And not to say that they're accusing Gongora of anything. They're just saying, why don't you stay in your giant mansion for the time being until we sort everything out? And of course, Gongora is not happy about that, but they're the council. So, all right, whatever. But on top of this, they want Kaim to investigate Grand Staff.
There's a lot of things I'd send an immortal to do.
Yeah, because they don't know what's going on over there due to the magical energy. They don't even know if anybody can get close to this thing, but an immortal can. So they also, I think, is it Kaim that suggests he takes Seth with him?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it sounds like it was a little bit interesting that it didn't seem like Gongora knew that Seth was an immortal. So potentially, if Kaim was created by Gongora, maybe there's some other method of immortal creation or immortalization.
Right. So that's what our next mission is going to be, which is going to Grand Staff. We're going to do the trek there with Seth. We go and check into a hotel, and we await further orders.
Gongora gets put under house arrest.
Yeah, so now Gongora can't leave town. You're going to go under house arrest.
Can't even leave his house, though, right?
Yeah, he can't leave his house. And I think it's here where we get the cutscene with him and the used to be king. Right?
I think so, yeah.
Him just talking with the king. It happens a little bit later on whenever we get summoned to Gongora, but anyway, so yeah.
You also get the other dream from Kaim, I think just before that, where you see the girl, the child, like launch herself off the cliff.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's starting to get more and more of his memories coming back to him, or presumably memories.
Right. So Kaim, and that's one of the big things. So he has this dream while sleeping in the hotel, and it is of a girl on a cliff with another woman there, a woman standing there, and Kaim is standing there as well. And the girl falls or possibly jumps off the cliff, and the woman is screaming for her. And we get more of that actual scene a little bit later on, which we'll delve into a little bit. But then after he wakes up, he recovers a memory. And these memories are part of Kaim remembering all of his past lives. They're known as 1,000 years of dreams. So it's suggested that Kaim has been alive for over 1,000 years.
Yep.
And he is piecemeal remembering certain things because he's seeing things in modern time right now that is basically jogging his memory. And these are the best parts of this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, so far, I really like these.
So I want to save the dreams for the end, because I want to talk specifically about the ones that I got. Now, I know for a fact I'm missing some, because I actually looked at a fact, because I want to get them all.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to wander around. You have to talk to people. You have to observe certain things in order to get these dreams. Some of them happen naturally, but some of them don't. So I want to make sure I get them all, because I think these are fantastic.
Yeah.
But we'll save those for the end of this show. But yeah. So Kaim has been summoned to Gongora's mansion. We go meet with Gongora, and this is where we get the cutscene while Kaim is traveling to Gongora's mansion. Gongora is meeting with the king, or what I should say, the previous king. So it has been suggested that at one point or another in Ura, there was a monarchy. The monarchy wasn't necessarily overthrown, I don't think, but it was basically determined by the people. We don't want a monarchy anymore. We want to have like a council, almost like a democracy almost.
Yeah, basically I voted out.
Yeah. And so the king now is just a, I wouldn't say a regular guy. He's still king. It's a lot like, I guess, Great Britain, maybe.
A figurehead?
He's a figurehead, yeah. But Gongora, while talking with this guy, constantly calls him my king, constantly bows to him, and is basically showing, I don't like this council stuff. I wish you were still back in power, and I don't trust this council. I don't like what they're doing, and if only you were leading us again, everything would be just fine. It's very ham-fisted.
Yeah, if he didn't already dislike the council for having overthrown the king, he definitely dislikes them now that they took away Grandstaff from him.
Yeah, and made him sit at home.
Yeah.
And the king the whole time is like, you can't talk like that. That's almost like, you're being a traitor here. The council was established. That's the rule now. You're going to have to just give up on that. So, but yeah, we get that cutscene. And then Kain goes to meet with Gongora. Now, this one is basically, Gongora tells Kain, look, you're going to be my eyes and ears going to Grandstaff. You need to pay attention, and you need to report back to me every single thing that you see there, because obviously I can't leave the house. And in order to make sure everything goes according to plan, you're going to be accompanied by one of my guys. And, it's Jensen. This very sarcastic, I don't know how to describe Jensen. He's very sarcastic, but at the same time, he's very bumbling.
Yep. Yeah, he's just kind of like always on. He's always talkative. He's a little bit flamboyant. He's a little bit of a dandy, but he's just always talking. Kind of a comedian, kind of a bit foppish, but I as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, here's our Maru.
Yeah.
But I actually don't dislike him. I find him to be quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind him. He's goofy, but at the same time, he can be sincere. But there is one thing that we need to mention about Jensen, is that Jensen is working for Gongora. Well, at this point he is. And he's kind of like the lapdog of Gongora. Keep an eye on him. You know, make sure they don't do anything that I wouldn't like.
And very specifically, make sure that they don't start to get their memories back.
Yeah. Which we see that a little bit later on, but I will we'll go ahead and mention it here. Before leaving town, Gongora has a little meeting with Jensen and is like, you need to keep an eye on these guys and make sure they never get their memories back. If they start getting their memories back, use this. And he hands him a little pebble that is like a magic... it's filled with magic energy, and it will make people forget things. Also become, I guess, influential, or not influential, but very...
Easily influenced.
Easily influenced. And so, after leaving, Kime runs into Seth. Seth's like, hey, looks like we're going on a mission together. Crazy how we got two immortals going on the same mission. Kime is very crass, does not care, very nonchalant, just does whatever he's told to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's a little bit more outgoing, it seems like.
Boisterous, yeah.
Yeah, boisterous.
Jumping all over the place here.
But I don't know if she mentions it here, but she feels like I think I know you, or maybe I knew you in a past life.
Yeah.
But I also don't have my memory, so I don't know if I know you or not.
Yep. Which is good. I mean, there's a lot of foreshadowing in the beginning here, or at least a lot of mysterious setup, about how, why does Kime not want to regain his memories? Do they know each other? If so, how? What about their origin story? If at least Kime was kind of created or turned immortal by Gongora, there's a lot of things to be explained, I think. Which is, always a good, interesting setup. What happened at Grand Staff?
So here's the question that I had to bring up then. If Kime has lived for over 1,000 years, and Gongora was the one that made him immortal, isn't Gongora immortal?
Yeah, that was my thought. Unless there's time travel to explain it, he must be immortal.
Right. So, yeah. So I guess next we embark on our mission to Grand Staff.
Yeah, like Jensen just barreling out as we wait for him in the morning.
Yep, we're waiting for him at the gate. Jensen busts out with 3 young women on his shoulders. And
super drunk.
He is very, very drunk. And everybody's kind of disgusted with him at this point. But, yep.
And then he's about to go on a crazy hike, which, that alone, I'm like, well, I couldn't do this.
No. Not as drunk as he was.
I would need a day to recover, yeah.
But, yeah, they do this long hike through the woods, climbing a mountain. It's
and this for me is where you're really getting into the routine of the game. You start to get a lot more fights.
Yeah.
You do a lot more of the exploration. This is really the first time where I'm like, all right, I've got a team together. I am really getting to understand battles. This was the first time I started to get the rings to work in the battle,
right?
The active rings. So all the rest of it was set up for me. Now I'm like, all right, we're off on an adventure now. Here's where the game starts. We're off to solve a mystery at Grand Staff.
Yep. And there is something just to mention here. This is not an open world RPG. In fact, this is. It feels almost like Dragon Age Origins, where you select on a map, go here next, kind of thing. And you see Indiana Jones style, them traveling. But yeah, so we're going through this forest / mountainous area. running into enemies and stuff like that. And one thing that that I think I'm pretty sure Chad mentioned in his email last week, and it's kind of holds true here. Regular enemies can give you some trouble.
Yeah, certainly, especially, and maybe that's because they move you along so much. I feel like a few levels later, these enemies wouldn't give you trouble, but you don't really keep fighting the same enemies for too long. I have had some people die, mostly Jansen.
Yeah.
I need to, at this point in the game where we are at the end, I really need to find a good item store, because I also don't have very many. I've got some health potions, but I don't have very many feathers, Phoenix Downs.
Right. Angel plumes.
Angel plumes, yeah.
Yep.
And you definitely could use a stock of them.
So there is another mechanic in this game I forgot to mention, and the reason why I forgot to mention it is because I don't know how it works at all, and that is the guard meter. Is it GC? I don't know what it stands for, but it's
Yep. So I think it has to do with how much of a protection bonus whoever's in the back row gets, and it's based on the strength of whoever's in the front row.
Right. And it was based on their hit points.
Is that it?
I think so. But
okay.
My issue is I get mine. I don't get the enemies. It doesn't matter, I feel like. If you have enemies that are in the front row and you have enemies in the back, kill the enemies in the front first and then work your way to the back. That's the only thing that I can think of. Like, yep. I see no strategy on attacking guys in the back until you've got the front row out, because it doesn't, you're not doing any damage, really.
Yeah, I'd imagine this gets more important later on as we get more magic users and more situationally impactful enemies.
Sure.
Right? If you've got enemies that are weaker in the back, depending on what they're doing to affect the battle, right? I might take the less damage per attack in order to kill them first because they're annoying.
Or they're healing. They're healing the front row or something like that.
Yep.
I get that, but I'm just like,
yeah.
So far everything that I've ran into is just I don't kill the front row first.
Yep. And the one time we've really had a healer, he wasn't even part of the battle anyway.
Yeah. So, this is also where I start setting up, skill links and stuff like that, learning. Everybody's learned level 1, level 2, white and black magic kind of thing. The other thing that I don't have a grasp on is that I have found magic in chests and stuff like that. I have no idea how to equip those. I have scoured the menus in this game. I have ground, the ability ground, which is basically using earth element to attack. No idea how to equip it to Jensen.
Jansen. I guess he's the only one, right? Because it seems like for the immortals, all you need to do is get your level 1 or level 2 white or black magic. But yeah, I wonder if you can equip it to Jansen.
I mean, what's the point of having it then?
Yeah, I guess just the way things were bucketed, I wasn't sure if like by default if ground is like a level 1 black spell that somehow it just, because level 1 black magic, that it would just fit into that bucket, or if you actually need to learn ground specifically.
Well, see, I don't know how to learn it. That's the thing. It's like, I've got Jansen there who knows how to do all of it, but he for some reason doesn't have it. And I've looked through my spell book and it's there, and I'm just like, do I click it on spell book? Nothing happens. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, this game isn't, so far, unless I'm missing it, super great explaining some of these things.
Yeah, some things.
I wasn't even sure how to do the active rings in the battle. Because I know they give you that one quick tutorial, but then after that's over, is there a way to see it?
I'm sure there's a system menu where you can go back and look at all the tutorials. I think.
There must be. I just did a quick look and couldn't find it, but I figure it must be there somewhere.
Yeah. But,
And also you don't have, like, a journal, per se. Like, so far I haven't lost the thread of what I was doing, but at one point I put the game down when I was just in the village after talking to the council. And then when I started it back up the next time, I'm like, where in the game, let's say I had put this down for 5 or 6 days, where in the game does it actually tell me what my objective is right now?
I don't think there is one.
Yeah, I don't think there is one. And so when I saw that, and then with the random battles, I was like, oh god. These are two of the things that put me off of RPGs for decades. So far, it hasn't been a problem, but it's in the back of my mind as something I'm wary of.
You know, I found it funny, especially in this game, with random battle encounters. It seems like the moments I want to grind, I will run around a map for an hour and not run into anything. But the moments I want to get through an area, I run every 2 steps.
Yep. I wonder if it scales in that same way. Like when it seems like when I'm new in an area, I'm getting attacked a lot, and then as I'm leveling up, once they get to the point where a fight's only worth 2 XP, maybe that's when they really ramp down the frequency.
It could be. That could be.
Because the only time because that happened to me very distinctly, right this next boss actually. I fought it once, died, and then I'm like, all right, well, I clearly need to level up. I haven't spent any time leveling. And then was just running back and forth trying to level and not finding any random battles.
Yeah. That happened with me with the last boss we'll be talking about. When I was trying to get SP for the paralysis.
Yep.
But, oh man. So, going through this, we make it to, this, kind of like a cottage up on the top of the mountain.
Mysteriously uninhabited.
Yep.
Yet, one of the things I always laugh at in games is when there's these uninhabited cabins, but they've got candles going.
Yeah, there's always candles going.
It can't be that uninhabited. The candle's only going to last a day.
Maybe we assumed that they lit them before we walked in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right before. Yeah.
But, Jensen is tired. He wants to take a break. So we stop for the night. Chaim is having another one of his dreams. And throughout this whole journey so far, they've been mentioning, both him and Seth, saying, yeah, this place feels familiar. I can't put my finger on it. I've been here before, but I don't know when. And that's when we get the cutscene of Jansen basically talking with Gongora, saying, here, use this if they start learning, start getting their memories back.
A traitor among us. It's always a good setup.
Yep.
Is he going to turn? Is he going to have a heart of gold and change his mind? We'll find out. Right.
So, there's one thing else I should mention. In the there's a bookcase in this cottage. If you read the book, there is a journal talking about that there is this giant monster that has been roaming this mountain. And, get ready, because we're about to run into it.
There's also a really key item that I found here. We pick up so many things that sometimes I just kind of ignore them. But some of the unique ones are super, super useful, because leaving here, when I died at the boss, I was like, my number one issue was I don't even know if I was close to beating him. Was I 90% of the way there and I just need to do a little better? Or am I categorically off and I did almost no damage to him? Not a clue. And then I realized that the item I had just picked up actually allows you to see the enemy hit points.
Yeah, it tells them
I'm like, oh, perfect.
the type that they may be weak to as well.
Yep.
So, but then you got to keep in mind that skill. I mean, you can have that item equipped, but if you try to take that item off and have that skill, that's going to take up one of your precious skill slots.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a give and take thing. But yeah, so our first big boss fight that we have is the Griffin, I'll call it. It looks like a Griffin.
Yeah, they called it a Grillgan.
Yeah. I did not die here. Jensen died, I think. Mm-hmm. But I was able to finish it off. And this is...
I definitely did. I was pretty underleveled when I fought him.
This, oh man, this game is falling into the tropes of RPGs of yesteryear. Because if a party member falls in battle, and if you win that battle, everybody gets experience except for the person that fell in battle. But then they make a miraculous recovery and have 1 hit point when the battle's over. And I'm just like, great. So now I always will have this person under-leveled until I grind.
I didn't actually see that happen, but it was my number one fear. So I'm like, no matter what happens, do not finish the boss off until this person is resurrected.
Yeah, that was my thing. Especially for bosses, I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's one of them. And then, as Chad confirmed, there will be parts in this game where you're playing as completely different people, or you are playing with characters that you don't normally use and are forced to, and they're going to be underleveled.
Yeah, just hearing that makes me nervous. I'm already nervous about it.
That makes me cringe. There's a reason why they made experience share in Pokemon a thing. It's because you don't want to do that kind of grinding. Ain't nobody got time for that. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, after beating the Griffin, we move on to it's like a construction zone, right?
Yeah, you're getting closer. So like around the time we see the Griffin, you can see the Grand Staff off in the distance.
Yep.
So we're just kind of going piecemeal closer and closer. There's like a little bit of a mining site that we walk through, and then you get to the construction base.
Yeah. Which is the guys that's working on Grand Staff. But I didn't get anybody saying something bad happened at Grand Staff. Maybe I wasn't talking to the right people.
Yeah, they seem to be a little bit confused why we were even there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they knew that there were some issues, but not that it had gone silent.
Yeah. I was like, oh, we didn't know you guys were coming. But I wandered around this place for a while. I healed up, rested at a bed.
Did you do it? It looked like there was a little bit of a stealth section.
I
off
did.
To the side.
Yeah, I did. It was annoying because it kept catching me, but I finally got there. And it leads you to a guy where you can buy stuff.
Yeah, that's the guy I need to find. I hope that's not the only guy who sells stuff.
I don't think so. I'm sure you'll run into other people. But this guy sold me 2 new swords and a new staff for my party members. And so I was happy about that. It raised my attack up. That's another thing. This game is not very heavy on the stats so far. If I go to a character... So, here's the thing. I equipped Jansen with a new staff. It raised his attack. Does that mean it also raised his magic attack? Because his regular attack is crap.
Yep.
Do I need to get him a new staff? Because if it's just his physical attack, that's useless to me. But if that staff...
he's not the guy that needs a physical attack. Right?
Exactly. So if that staff also affects his magical prowess, I need to know this. This is why I like Diablo. Because Diablo has a giant page that shows you every single thing about your character. This game, so far, unless I'm missing it somewhere, I don't see any of that. Like, how are they calculating damage here? That's what I want to know.
I can't tell if it's obscured and it's causing me angst, or if it's just, it's not there, don't worry about it, it's not that important. I can't tell which of the two, like whether it is important and I just don't know what I'm doing, or whether it's not important and that's why they don't worry about showing it.
Right. I don't know. But, yeah. So I bought some extra stuff, geared up there, and then continued on. So Grandstaff is actually on like this little island with multiple islands in between, this like little peninsula. So we're traveling in between these little islands to reach Grandstaff. So it's another little area there. It's a lot of like, I found pretty much everything here as far as like items go, which includes the yellow band, which is very important.
Yep.
So, I don't, nothing really major here that we need to talk about. We do run into some enemies. They look like little like crabs, colorful crabs that will charge up power. And I was like, oh, I probably need to kill that thing soon. And we eventually make it to the base of Grandstaff. And, oh no, a boss fight. And this boss fight is a giant worm that uses...
Yeah, energy worm?
Yes, it uses the magical energy. So it's a giant worm that also has those little crabs there. The little crabs will charge up power. And then on the worm's turn, it will absorb all that power that's being charged up by the little crabs. And it has a meter. If that meter fills up, it unleashes a massive attack that hits all characters and instantly paralyzes them. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. It instantly paralyzes them. Now, the status effect Paralyze works a lot like, going back to it, Pokemon. If your character is paralyzed, there is a certain percentage chance that they will not be able to move, which means they lose their turn. It's not always, but sometimes it does happen. So, at this point, I had the yellow band on Kime. He didn't get paralyzed, but Jensen and Seth both did. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I healed, got rid of that, and was slowly picking off all the little crabs to make sure it didn't charge up. Then I get a full turn where I could attack the worm. Kill the worm. Easy peasy. Play the Final Fantasy fanfare. We're done. Wrong. Cue Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor going, wrong! Because here comes another one. And the fight, you have to do the same thing over again. So there's two of them you have to fight. I had forgotten about that. The second one completely wiped my team.
Yep.
And I was like, great. So I started over and I grind to get the SP to make sure everybody had anti-paralysis.
That's what I wanted. That's what I should have done. That's what I did before the Griffin. And here I was just like, I think I clicked to restart at the last save, and it immediately brought me back into the boss battle.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I guess I might be screwed here. I guess I can revert to an earlier save, but I'm going to lose more than just the boss battle time. So yeah, I fully intended to do what you did, but I ended up just fighting it twice in a row.
Mm. But yeah, so after putting anti-paralysis on everybody, that boss fight became a little bit of a joke.
Yeah, I only had mine on Jansen because I figured if he's not going to be doing the physical damage that, I need him there casting anti-paralysis on the other two and healing them and using that Zephyr to heal all three of them. Except this was also where one of the battles where I would have him do like the attack that hits all enemies. He's got one magic attack that hits all enemies.
It's the paralysis one.
No, Jansen's. Black magic.
Jensen's. Oh, geez, I don't know what it is.
Well, whatever that one is, I'm like, this is perfect because there's like 7 enemies. I'm going to get maximum value out of this. And then it takes him 2 full turns, and then they hit him, so that like knocks him to the back of the priority even further.
Yeah.
So I might have gotten this once off, but I also realized it probably wasn't worth the 2.5 turns it took to execute.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little torn. I'm like, I don't know how to keep him safe enough. Like, I need somebody else to be able to pull the attacks to keep him out of harm's way so that he can actually get off his long lead time attacks. It worked out really well when I did it, but I don't think it was worth it.
Yeah. But, after beating this boss, we need to investigate Grand Staff. So, first thing we need to do is kind of maybe wander around the area to see what's really going on here, because we noticed these creatures are feeding off of this magic energy that's coming off of Grand Staff. What's going on here? So, we wander around, we find there's multiple pipes busted, and magic energy's kind of just spewing out of it. We don't know what's actually going on here. But as we're investigating, we get attacked. There is
By Heihachi?
Yeah, it looks like him, right?
Like a younger him.
There's a guy. He's got the Julius Caesar thing. The
tufts.
Yeah, is that what that is? I don't know what that's called. It's like the
I don't know if they're
olive
actually
branches.
like. Yeah.
But he has a little army with him, and they're shooting arrows at us. And he's like, "Stop them!" So we have a whole bunch of guys coming at us, and we have another fight. And this is all right after a boss fight, and I'm like, "Can I not save my game here, guys?" Yeah. So we have a fight with 5 guys, and in the back is a healer, and we have to fight these soldiers who are constantly getting healed. But I was able to beat this, not too difficult. But it doesn't really matter because after this fight, there's a cutscene of basically us getting overpowered. We're going to get caught. Jensen, luckily, we tell him, blow up the pipes. Use your magic to hit those pipes and blow them up. So we make a giant explosion, but it doesn't matter. We get caught anyway. I guess it was a valiant effort, I guess.
Yeah. Better luck next time.
So we are put in these, I guess, cages?
Yeah, to me, they're the spheres from Fusion Frenzy, and I want these guys to break out and just start battling each other, but clearly it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so we're stuck in these cages, and that's when we have a little cutscene with everybody. They're all in a cage, a separate cage with each other, or not with each other, but separately from each other. And
you control the other characters.
Yeah.
Even if only briefly.
I still can't figure out what I was doing here. I did get an item at the end of it. So we see a mouse, and we scare the mouse to each other's cages. And then the mouse had something in its mouth. And I picked it up. And then nothing really, it didn't matter.
I thought it was just the key to the cage. Was it something else?
Well, I never got out of the cages.
Oh.
So, but yeah. But there is a few important things here. So, Kaim is obviously remembering things. We get another one of those memories while he's looking at the bars. And Jansen's like, are you learning? Are you remembering? And Kime basically comes out and says, I don't really care about my memories.
Yeah, in fact, I don't want to remember my memories.
Yeah. But,
which Seth doesn't really understand.
Well, yeah. But, so after doing that little mini game where I was chasing a mouse, our cages are picked up by these claws and are pulled up into what looks like a giant cruise ship. That's also traveling. I'm confused as to how we got there.
Yeah, I am as well.
But trying to think here, there was one other thing. The dude, the Hayachi guy, was talking about the queen of this. Like they're trying to speculate on who these people are, if they're like spies or if they're trying to like terrorize them or something like that. And they keep insinuating that they are just travelers passing through. And he starts talking about the queen and calls her a figurehead. And they take a big offense to that. How dare you call her the figurehead? She's the queen.
Show her some respect.
Yeah. But anyway, we're pulled up into this thing. We're now locked up in a different cell, because despite all of our rage, we're still just rat in a cage. But
classic.
I'm an idiot. But yeah, Kime is asleep, and he's having that reoccurring dream again. This time, he's there.
Different from the dreams, right?
Yeah.
This was like not just a text dream.
Yeah.
This is the one with the little girl, and it's cutscene dream rather than read the text.
We see the little girl fall. The woman is there trying to reach for her. Kime is also trying to reach for her. They are both sobbing uncontrollably, and as he is holding on to this woman, he looks in the distance and sees this shadowy figure watching over them, and then he wakes up.
Charging up a bit of magic.
Yeah. So he wakes up, and we're now trying to figure out how to get out of this place. Jansen has his little orb that he got from Gongora, and he's like, I got an idea. There's a guard right there outside the gate. He takes the orb, throws it at the guard. This magical cloud surrounds him. He falls over, and he's like, where am I? What am I doing? And Jensen's like, hey, you were actually coming to let us out. It was all just a big misunderstanding, and they were going to let us go. So you kind of fell over, and you don't remember what you were supposed to be doing. So how about you let us out of here?
Yeah, where you said it makes them more susceptible to influence, I assume that's the interpretation, and not just that the guard was incompetent all along.
Oh, true. Yeah, I'm guessing that's how it is. Almost like
because nothing else really has implied that Numenera, these people are idiots. Where in this wood, if it wasn't an effect of that little orb, then they're pretty desperate for some better guards.
Right. So and Kime's like, whoa, where did you get that? And he's like, oh, Gongora gave it to me. And like, so he just gave you something that makes people forget their memories? And he's like, yep. I can't tell if this is the turning point for Jansen, like he's like, I'm not going to use this on these people, or if he's just an idiot and is like, hey, this will get us out of here. So it could just be that he's selfish and is trying to save his own skin by getting out of jail by using this thing, which sounds likely.
Yeah, I was interested that he didn't mention any further about what he was intending to do, but also there wasn't a lot of angst over using it not on Kime. Right, he doesn't really struggle with that decision, so I wondered a little bit, what are his actual motives? Does he actually have any intent to do anything bad to Kime?
Right. And during this time, we also get a small cutscene showing the bridge of this ship that we're on, and this woman who is obviously the queen emerges and is basically like seeing over the people on the ship. And but yeah, after escaping, there is a save point there, and I saved my game and quit, and that's where I stopped. So we are now on the White Boa, I believe is what it's called.
Yep, I think I assume that's the ship.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming too. That's what the save point was called, the White Boa.
Yep.
And that's it. That's where I stopped. I know, Matt, you finished up the White Boa area.
Yeah, I just played one more section. It's, as far as dungeons go, it's a little interesting, a little different, but we'll see how typical it is going forward.
Have you had Kime or Seth fall in battle yet?
No, only Jansen.
Okay.
A couple of times.
So, there is actually an interesting mechanic here, and I remember it from my first time I played this game. If immortals fall in battle, after 2 turns, they come back to life.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So if you can hold out, your guys will come back without having to use an Angel Plume. You can use an Angel Plume to bring them back right away.
Yep. And it's interesting, as we talked about the magic charging, most of the time when I'm playing these RPGs, I don't end up using items to heal because I feel like I don't want to deplete that, and it's easier to replenish magic points than it is health potions. But in this game, there's such a stark difference in timing between using a health item for only 100 points versus the magic that might give you 150 or more points, but it takes so much longer that I did find myself having to juggle which ones I use depending on the severity of the need, which I guess was a little bit of a positive point for the game because it makes them relevant, and the potions are essentially immediate use, whereas that magic takes so long that you really need to know in advance what you're going to do.
I feel like in the heat of battle that makes the most sense. But if you're just traveling through a dungeon and you want to keep healing everybody, I feel like it would be best to keep a giant stack of magic healing abilities or magic healing items. MP restores.
Yep. And then just use the magic to heal yourself between battles rather than within.
Which is what I'm probably going to do is honestly, I'm probably going to spend the next play session grinding, but not for levels or skill points, but rather gold. And if I can find a vendor that sells those, I think it's called mana herbs.
Yep.
Probably going to stockpile those.
Yeah, that's good. Good call.
But, so the next thing I want to bring up is the memories. Because, as I said before, these are the piece de la resistance of Lost Odyssey. These are the things that made me cry. And I'm not going to lie. I was tearing up in one of them this play session. So the ones that I got was Hannah's Departure.
Yep.
Which is you can't miss it. It's the first one you get. White Flowers. let's see here, the Upstreamers.
Yeah, I definitely got that one.
And they live in shells.
Yep, got that one too.
Those were the ones that I got. And these basically are memories of Kimes from his many, many, many years of traveling. The one that made me tear up was the first one, which was Hannah's departure. It's such a nice story. Kime has been traveling as a mercenary for a long time, and he always stops at this inn and tells only the good things to this little girl. This little girl grew up or was born very frail and sickly, so she can't leave, and so she just basically stays in this inn the whole time, and she loves talking to travelers about what they've seen. And he tells her only the good things, even though he is a bloody mercenary. And finally her illnesses take the better of her. He shows up at the inn, and she is laying on her deathbed. And
can't speak, can't see, and they say hearing is the last thing to go.
Yeah. And he tells her of the stories, of the wonderful things, the nice things. And then she passes. That one really hit me. And I should mention that all these memories are played out in text-based pages. I like the backgrounds. I love the music in it. Even sometimes they kind of have like a flashy way of showing the letters as they pop up on screen and stuff like that.
Yeah, like some PowerPoint animations.
Yeah.
Have it fade in, have them bounce in.
It's really well done. White Flowers, which I think
this one I didn't get.
So this one's actually really nice. So White Flowers, and it gives you a little bit more backstory into Kime's past. White Flowers is Kime is showing up to this town, and the town's having this big festival. He goes up to this this bar, and the barkeeper there is telling him, "Yeah, it's a festival that we're having. We have it every year on this day in remembrance of a earthquake that happened, and it killed like a lot of the people in the village. Only a few people survived." And Kime's like, he tells him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that earthquake." He's like, "How could you remember it? It happened like 200 years ago."
Huh.
So Kime remembers when the earthquake happened because he was living in that village at the time with his wife and daughter. And his daughter, why it's called White Flowers, is because his daughter loves these little flowers that grow, and they only bloom for a day. And then they wither away. And he promises his daughter something. I can't remember what it was. He promises his daughter something that they'll do the next day. Well, in the night, the earthquake happened, and his wife and his daughter were killed. He was I don't think he was the only survivor, but he survived. And he had actually came to that village to go to that festival because he wanted to see if people that lived in that village remembered the tragedy that happened. And he noticed everybody was just getting drunk and being jovial and having a great time. And he believed that they had forgotten the reason why this day was remembered. But at the end, everybody goes out to the town square and sings this song, and Kime also does as well. And he realizes they haven't forgotten. Also, those white flowers have bloomed again, and instead of withering away in a day, because of the soil changes after the earthquake, they live for a little bit longer, like 3 days. And it's one of those things of something good can come out of something really bad. Mm. So that's a really good one because it shows that Kime has started families before. And it actually mentions in that story that that's not the only family he's ever had. He has seen countless wives and children grow old and pass. Let's see here. The Upstreamers. Another tale about these group of people. It's almost like a religion where they travel through this valley where the wind is very harsh, and these people believe that they're trying to make it to where the wind begins. It's a perpetual wind that keeps blowing. Must be from Alone in the Dark.
Yeah,
or The Witcher.
I definitely didn't really understand this story in that I guess I don't know enough about the world yet. But like this journey has been going on for generations, right? It's not like a pilgrimage so much as it is a perpetual they're talking about giving birth, and their children and their children's children are still going to be on this path going towards where the wind comes from.
Yeah.
But I mean, hundreds of years of travel doesn't get you across the world or to the edge.
I don't know. I know. It was confusing to me too. I was thinking that myself.
I was like, at some point they must just reach the end, and then what do they do? What did they do? But it doesn't sound like they ever have done that. So I guess I was just a little confused on this. I mean, not really important to the story, but
yeah. Kime meets a little girl who is part of this pilgrimage, and it's shown basically that some people, they travel to village. Some of them decide to stop going the path and settle down. And then sometimes they decide to come back and do it again. And Kime, after many years, runs into a young boy who is a spitting image of that girl he met years and years ago. And they said, yeah, we're burying my grandmother who returned back to being an upstreamer. And he remembers the grandmother is actually the little girl that he had met a long time ago. And then the last one, and one of my favorites so far, is They Live in Shells, which is Kime is placed in a dungeon. He's been arrested and placed in a dungeon that is cages, that is also in total darkness.
And this was triggered when he was in the Numenera jail, right?
Yes.
Numenera camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he remembers being put in these cages and basically left there to rot. But, given enough food just to survive. And he remembers all these countless people who come in and then either kill themselves or die of starvation, and then are dragged out until only him and this old man are left. And this old man's like, my guys are coming any minute now. And sure enough, his guys come. The revolution has happened. They've overthrown the government. And the old man, as he's being brought back from the underground, gazes at the sky for the first time and is immediately blinded because of how bright the sun is. And Kime knew not to look at not to open his eyes when he first left the dungeon. And the old man asked him, he's like, what does everything look like? And Kime tells him, well, you guys won, but It's not very nice.
Yeah, dead bodies everywhere.
So Kime spent numerous years just locked up in this dungeon in pure darkness for years. This story is crazy.
Yeah, and one of, like, as you start to learn maybe more about his past, you might start to realize why he doesn't want to remember some of it.
There's a lot of bad memories in there.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things that I think these stories kind of convey, which they've always conveyed in other forms of media. Being an immortal is way more of a curse than it is a blessing.
Yeah, and that's always a relevant kind of question and theme to explore, because you see it in vampire stories too, about how it kind of breeds loneliness when you're immortal and everyone you love and everyone you know dies.
Yep.
It's hard not to have some negativity there.
But yeah, did you get any other stories, Matt?
No, I only got those ones and not White Flowers.
Gotcha.
But I have copied down that list of stories to print out, because it tells you exactly how to trigger each of them. I would like to get all the stories in the game as well.
Yeah, it's so there's 3 stories that I missed. You have to go to the tavern in the first starting city, and you have to go there 3 times. Leave, come back, leave, come back. And it's 3 separate stories. But I have not seen those yet. So, we have 3 emails.
Nice.
There's multiple people playing along with us this go around.
That's great.
First one comes in from Chad, the man himself, the one who told us to play this game to begin with. He says, a journey without a home or destination is considered wandering. He says, howdy guys. I'm going to keep my email this week short and sweet, considering I know others have a lot to say and you are probably running long. Although this game's story has some twists, it really only has a few underlying mysteries from the start to finish. It's more of a journey story than a grand mystery. Mm-hmm. So let's jump right into it. Early prediction time. Now, these are always my favorite. Number 1. What is your current theory on why Kime and Seth are immortal? I don't know. I don't know.
Why they're immortal? I guess we know the how, or at least we've had an indication as to the how.
I get the feeling to suffer.
A little bit like Jesus, to suffer for everyone else.
I know. I think Kime may have done something to Gongora to make Gongora do this to him.
You don't think he was hoodwinked into it, as, like, you could be immortal, and at the time that was the greatest thing he could ever imagine, and it only soured over time?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like I'm gonna bring it up again because I brought it up before. Dark Shadows, the vampire soap opera of the 1960s. Barnabas Collins had a curse put on him, and he got turned into an immortal vampire. And it is all about his suffering. Being an immortal sucks. And I think that's what this is about. I think this is a revenge.
Do you think there's any kind of craziness where, like, maybe they're not even humans or something, and these are some kind of spirits of the earth, and they've just been imbued into bodies? So maybe it was never a positive or negative thing. Maybe it was just a personification.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I couldn't really tell you.
It would be a little bit more extreme than a curse, but
yeah,
who knows? I mean, when magic's involved, anything's possible.
Number 2, it is implied that they have lived for over 1,000 years, but have lost their memory. That's a lot of years' worth of experience to suddenly forget. What do you speculate is the cause of their amnesia? Pretty sure Gongora.
Yep.
I could be wrong, but especially he knows they lost their memories, and he's trying his best to make sure they don't get them back.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else it could be other than him. Other than, again, some kind of breakdown in the fabric of the earth that maybe allowed the magic to come out. Because it does sound like magic is relatively new to the world, right? Because it sounds like they've set up these things to harvest it.
Yeah.
So maybe something, I don't know, it wouldn't make sense that they were immortals before there was magic, really, but...
Yeah. Don't know. Number 3, the game definitely leads you to believe Gongora is a bad guy, but is he? He is evidently employing some shady tactics. What do you think he is ultimately trying to do?
I mean, the simplest thing for me would be the greater good approach. Like he's put this, let's say it's a curse on however many people, because we know there's more immortals in the game. But maybe he's done this and they somehow balance out the stealing of energy from the earth or the utilization of the magic, and that the magic is bettering society, so the bettering of everybody is worth the suffering of the few. To me, that's like the simple answer. I hope it's something maybe more interesting.
So, I think what he's ultimately trying to do, we both came up with the thought process, power of deduction here. If Gongora made Kaim immortal, and Kaim is over 1,000 years old, that means Gongora is immortal. I think the ultimate goal is Gongora is trying to stop him from being immortal. I think Gongora is trying to reverse whatever has happened to them.
Yeah, I was something along those lines. I guess I was one of the potential things I was thinking was that he was just experimenting on these people, right? Because when you meet Gongora, he's got like a lab in his house.
Yeah.
So one of my thoughts was that he just wanted to be the ultimate immortal or the only immortal, and maybe he's just experimenting on people until he gets it right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got himself in a form of immortality, but maybe there's some drawback we don't know about, and he either wants to eliminate the other people who he's taken along with him, so he's the only one, or find level 2 immortality.
Number 4. Although Kaim occasionally recovers memories, there is one reoccurring one with a girl falling or jumping off of a cliff. Thoughts and theories. I mean, the way Kaim is screaming for this girl, I'm pretty sure that's his daughter.
Yeah, it feels like Kratos.
Yeah. And I think that's his wife.
Calliope.
Now, I'm not going to delve into this. I know a little bit more because I've played a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure I know who that girl is. But I can't fully remember. Maybe I have a little bit of Kaim in me. It's been a long time since I've actually played this game. In fact, it's been over 10 years. So, but I do remember a revelation involving that girl. I think I remember that. And lastly, number 5. Gongora is apparently at least familiar with Kaim and Seth. lying to the council that his own magic made them immortal. But what do you think his relationship is with these two?
Yeah, like I said, maybe he's punishing them, or maybe they're just test subjects, or yeah, I'm not sure what else.
Now, wait a minute. He says Gungor is apparently at least familiar with Kime and Seth, lying to the council that his own magic made them immortal. So wait, his magic didn't make them immortal? Because I was still under the impression that he made them immortal.
Yeah, I guess that will be
maybe
part of the mystery.
Maybe I missed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought he said that pretty clearly, pretty explicitly. I don't remember when they walked it back, but maybe they did.
Yeah, they probably did. I don't know. Maybe I missed that. But that's the end of his email. I appreciate that email. Thank you. Those are some good questions that we will have to think on and at least explore. Our next email comes in from Dustin. It's titled The Crying Game. Lost Odyssey, huh? Or should we just call this game Collection of Depressing Short Stories? Those dreams make me sad. I even teared up a couple of times already. Some of the later ones I found are tame, but I'm sure there's a lot more sad ones to find. The battle system I'm not in love with. The ring gimmick is dumb, and I find myself hitting A rather than holding the trigger. They have the stun system to delay magic attacks, but it's kind of useless since most magic isn't cast until the end anyway, and later magic takes 2 rounds to cast. Also, I have no idea how the GC system works, so I haven't paid much attention to it. Just kill the front line, then the back line.
Yep.
As far as characters go, Kime and Seth are interesting, with both being immortal and slowly regaining their memories. When Jensen showed up, I thought he would be the atypical, annoying JRPG character, and he does fill that role at times, but I was actually surprised how many times I have laughed at his dialogue and enjoyed him in the cutscenes. Some are cringy, but some are comedic. So far, the biggest hurdle in this game was the first freaking Griffin boss. I died multiple times since I was trying to use Jensen as a healer, and I even tried grinding one level, but I ended up dying, and instead of auto-saving before the boss, it reloaded the previous auto-save with the lower level. I then grinded again to regain that one level, and I noticed it took twice the battles this time, and I don't really get why one group of monsters awards XP and the other doesn't. But anyway, I saved at the cabin, then went to the boss, and instead of healing, I tried Flare, and yep, I wished I'd have tried that right away. I haven't had much trouble since that boss. Okay, so I'm about to disc 3, and no spoilers, but I think I'm missing something. Is there a way to replenish your health at save points, kind of like a tent in Final Fantasy? There's a couple of dungeons in Disc 2 I had to leave to sleep at an inn and come back since I didn't want to blow all my money on potions. Pro tip, learn all the anti-status abilities from items you can. Enemies love status effects in Disc 2. Well, that's good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there is like a tent item in this game or not.
There was that one specific point right before we fought the 5 guards before Heihachi.
That's right. There was that glowing blue thing.
Yeah, it was like a bluish purple orb instead of the yellow one that we save at. I don't think you get healed at a regular save, but there was that thing that didn't do anything else other than heal you, I think.
Right. Yeah. You're right. I remember that now. Maybe they're just few and far between. I guess stock up on health potions, man. Or magic healing.
Yeah, but again, in a slightly odd way, the game doesn't actually tell you what that thing does.
Yeah. So here, I'm loving the music. The overworld theme really grew on me. The game borrows a lot from Final Fantasy IX with how you learn abilities. It's a lot of menuing, and it isn't the best, but it works. At first, I liked exploring the environments, trying to find hidden items, but now I just find myself scraping wall scraping, mashing A, Resident Evil style.
Yeah, me too, a little bit.
I find some of the clothing fascinating, like Gongora's long medals that just dangled there. How does he tolerate that? Speaking of him, why did they throw him in house arrest? Seems kind of sudden for the introduction. Also, the opening battle, did anyone else think that they were in a cave and the ceiling gave way to lava?
Yep.
So maybe a cave and a
100%.
volcano. It did not look like a meteor.
Yep.
Dang. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Dustin.
Yep. And it sounded like the reason they put him under house arrest is because they weren't sure if he was responsible for the meteor.
Right.
Because they basically said it was the magic of Grand Staff is going wild, and we think that's the cause. We don't know if you're responsible or not, but just to be safe, you can't leave. Right? There wasn't more to it than that, right?
No, it wasn't like he was under arrest.
I guess what we don't know is really his history, because there was that guy, the leader of the council, Roxian, I think is his name.
I think so.
And I guess what we don't know is kind of their history. Like, is Gongora, was it already tenuous that he was leading Grand Staff, or was that his from the beginning, his idea, his setup? I guess maybe we'll find some of this out. But
there's one other thing we forgot to mention. The cutscene with Gongora leaving the house.
Oh, yeah.
So, while we are on our travels, we have a cutscene of the king, the previous king, sitting there getting ready to eat. And Gongora rushes in and knocks the plate out of his hand. The soup falls to the ground, and the king's like, "What in the world are you doing?" Gongora releases a rat. The rat runs up to the soup and starts eating it, and then turns into a plant creature.
Yep.
And then dies. It's like almost like poison. And Gongora's like, "I'm glad I made it in time. Looks like you can't trust a lot of the people around you, but you can trust me." And
and even though it's like a democracy now led by the council, there are people who I guess just don't even want the option for the monarchy to be reinstated.
Yeah.
I imagine the politics are going to play more of a role in the story as we go on.
Yeah, I would assume so. There's obviously some treachery here.
Yep, some factions, some treachery, all good stuff.
So Gongora tells the king, "You can trust me." And of course the king eats it up. He's like, "Oh, thank God you were here." It's like
and there's zero chance that I poisoned it myself.
Yeah. And as he is walking away, he goes back into the hallway, and he gives a money pouch to the maid who brought the food, and says, "Keep up the good work."
Yep.
So yeah, there you go. He's obviously trying to manipulate the king. But I forgot about that one. Sorry. And then our last email comes in from Jamie, and says,
"Oh, nice."
So I decided to climb out of my COVID cave to play a game finally. Thanks to Chad for giving me a heads up and encouraging me to play. I've gone into a bit of a gaming drought, partially brought on by picking up other coping mechanisms, but it's definitely time to play something other than Overwatch. I thought I'd be playing games on my new PC by now, but it's currently sitting in boxes, patiently waiting for a graphics card. So I sent my husband out to go buy me an Xbox 360 so I can play this game and get used to a whole new controller. I really hope there aren't any QuickTime events in this game, because I am sure I'll mess that up. Well, the battle system is kind of based around a QuickTime event. Luckily, it's not a random button.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lost Odyssey. Take a breath, because I have a lot to say. Here we go. I find myself constantly scratching my head with this game, mostly with the writing and the cutscenes. There were a few really jarring conversations that just really didn't flow well. Specifically, in the conference hall, and with the former Prince and Gongora. I mean, it's cheesy, but I'm a huge fantasy romance reader, not to mention Final Fantasy fan. I can handle cheesy, but these conversations were just janky. Like they didn't even seem to be talking about the same thing sometimes. That said, there is a lot to like about this game. There is something endearing about it, and I'm not sure I can put my finger on it yet. Let's talk about the gameplay. I don't get the dreams. I mean, I do. I get we need some insight into Kaim, and it will fill in his backstory. But the format is just odd. It's like someone made a bad presentation and used every possible text animation.
I thought it was a little cornier than it was interesting. Sure.
I don't mind it. I don't know. Like, yeah, it is like a PowerPoint. It's like a PowerPoint from like 2006. That's okay though for me. And the writing is sometimes really good, and at other times sounds like something my kids wrote. Honestly, if nothing comes out of these stories, I'll be a bit disappointed, and I wasted my time reading them all. And they are long, like ridiculously long at times. I guess I wonder why they decided to do a text-based portion, especially when some of their cutscenes and other animations are quite good. Thankfully, they don't happen every time we rest, and I know you have the option to skip them, but I guess I assume I should pay attention to them. I love the battle system and the skill learning. It makes me feel like there is something other than regular leveling up to do during the traveling bits. In Final Fantasy, you would have just run through the areas, maybe even not paid much attention to the fight, attack, magic attack. But with the rings, it can set people up to restore mana or do specific kinds of damage, and you have to pay attention to make sure your immortals have finished learning things from the mortals, and then switch up those skill links when they've learned the skills. So instead of going into a part where I would have dreaded the long haul, now I'm looking forward to making sure all my characters are learning skills, and assigning those skills to best suit the situation.
Yep. I actually, again, I want to see where it goes, but I did really like all that busy work.
Says, I also love the rings. Again, there were so many times in Final Fantasy where you just hit attack, and don't even need to watch really. They do limited little animations and move on, but with the rings you have to be on the ball and paying attention, and it's satisfying, as the kids say, to have that perfect pop-up. If you like that kind of stuff, I highly suggest you play Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. Those games all feature that. I was a bit blindsided by that first boss battle with Grilgan, the Griffin-ish thing. That was kind of a fun surprise. I died the first time I fought him, but figured out his pattern by the second time. Still, it was enough of a wake-up call to remember to level the characters and pay attention. So, about those characters. I love how these games always start with huge battles, and you can tell exactly who your main characters are because they show up without armor or do very little of it. Or with very little of it. Okay, sure, it's a video game trope, especially for women, but I did chuckle at how much skin is showing, and then some of the other soldiers even comment that it's surprising Kaim survived in that outfit. That's rich coming from the guys wearing massive ring helmets.
Yeah, kind of pretty goofy looking.
Yeah. That's one of the bizarre things about this game. Really good jokes mixed in with questionable writing in other places. It's like the writers were all sitting in different rooms. Anyways, I don't know a ton about him yet. Typical moody, broody protagonist, it seems like. I just really, really want to push that hair off of his fucking face. Yeah, me too. It is annoying. So far, Seth is pretty meh. Not much going on with her yet, and I can't decide if I like or despise Jansen. At some points, he's cringeworthy and annoying. Okay, at most points. but occasionally he says something hilarious, and considering he hasn't yet done anything to sabotage Kime and Seth, I kind of want to trust him. I can't say I have any idea where the story is going yet. Gongora seems like he's the bad guy, but I can't tell if that's a setup or the truth, and most of that council seemed just as bad as him. Random thoughts. I thought it was super cool in the beginning when the lava started coming from the sky. I thought maybe they were in some kind of underground world or something. And then someone said it was a meteor strike? I'm sorry, what?
I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I was confused when it came out that it was a meteor.
Granted, I haven't actually seen any meteor strikes happen, but I have a feeling it's not lava pouring from the sky. It looked cool, though, so I will forgive.
Yep.
I really like the travel sections where you go to the map and it plays the music and then shows the location. I have no idea why, but I just like it. A nice little detail, though it makes me think of a Western movie. I also really like that you can loot all kinds of things. In most games, it's just the same old chest, but you can look in garbage cans and trees, pots, piles of rocks. It kind of feels less like a gimme that way. No, excuse me. I'm sure I look ridiculous checking every damn tree to see if I can ram it.
Yeah, the one that got me was the posters on the wall.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't see any reason why there would be something behind this poster, but it's just moving a little too much. Right? It's like your thing that just doesn't quite jive with the background. I'm like, It seems like there might be something there, even though there's no logical reason.
Yep. It says, were those guards at Gongora's house wearing ball gowns over their armor? Good question. I'm getting some Metal Gear vibes trying to sneak past guards, except it's easiest stealth mission ever. Seriously, it's about as complicated as, hey, look that way and walk past them, but it's still not something you usually find in these kind of games. Lastly, fast load times are amazing. Let me tell you something. You're playing on the Xbox 360. I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. There are no load times in this game. The load times in this game are legit 2 seconds. It's 1, 2, and then you're in the game. No matter what.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like, the Series X is a powerhouse when it comes to loading games fast. Is that where you're playing, Matt?
Yep, certainly am.
There you go.
Which is good, because my 360 is limping along. It is barely functional.
It's too tired to even red ring at this point.
Yeah, it just spits. Sometimes doesn't open the door. Sometimes does, but doesn't read the disc.
Oh, man.
I guess in this case it was a download, so that wouldn't be a problem.
It says, okay, I better stop here. Otherwise, you could just make a whole podcast of Jamie's emails. If you have an Xbox 360, if you have Xbox 360 games to recommend, I should put my new console to good use. Well, thank you for that email, Jamie. As far as 360 games, I mean, if you've never played the Gears of War series, those are pretty good. Gears of War 1, 2, and 3 are on there. I'm sure you've probably played Oblivion at this point, but Oblivion is really good. That was a 360 game for a while there. Did they? I'm pretty sure they released Oblivion for PS3, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it came later, I think.
I think so.
Man, I can't think of...
The other one I've got preloaded on there that was a download is Too Human to finish off at some point.
Too Human, yeah.
I need to get my save over there, but once I do that, I'll be ready to finish that game off one day.
There you go. Halo 3. It's really good. Jeez. Can't really think of anything else that wasn't multi-plat. I always enjoyed Viva Pinata.
Yeah, I was going to say Rare.
Cameo. People seem to really like Cameo. I would say steer clear of Perfect Dark Zero. Was not a fan of that game. I don't know. I'll have to give some thought on that. But yeah, that's it. I appreciate all those emails. Thank you so much. I'm glad we got some people playing along with us on this one. So there's two things I do want to mention. The first one, Matt is actually not going to be able to record next week, so we are doing an intermission show. And it is going to be me and Anthony. And we are actually not going to be talking about video games. Me and Anthony kind of have a passion for strange and unusual things / true crime stuff. So we're going to be talking about strange internet mysteries and unsolved mysteries, that kind of thing. Me and Anthony constantly talk about that stuff through emails and stuff like that, and we share videos. And I'm actually really excited to talk about this kind of stuff. So that's the thing we're going to be talking about. If you are interested in any of that kind of stuff, I highly suggest checking out the YouTube channel Nexpo. He does some great internet mystery stuff. Love his channel. It's very, very good. The second thing actually involves Matt here. I do want to ask you. So obviously the next game after Lost Odyssey is going to be Yakuza 1. After Yakuza 1, may I suggest a game that we do?
Ooh, intrigued.
I want to do Assassin's Creed Origins.
That's a good one. You're going to force me to break my long-running stance, but I've already given up on the stance. So
I have to, because I own all the Assassin's Creed games, and I've beaten 1 and 2, and haven't played any of the other ones. And the end goal is to play Odyssey, but everybody has told me not to play Odyssey before you play Origins, because if you play Odyssey and then go back to Origins, you'll never want to play Origins.
Yep. And there's nothing we do in this in this series if not stick with the first game, and troubles be damned.
Yeah. So I know that you don't like the sound of this, but from what I understand, we had a long discussion about this on the N4G radio last week. Origins is actually a pretty good starting point, because that's the beginning of this kind of like new trilogy.
Yep.
So
yeah, I've heard that.
It's not a hard reset, but it is instead of Desmond, you're now playing as a different person outside of the Animus kind of thing. And it started with Origins. So.
Origins is the number one Assassin's Creed that I would play, if aside from actually what I said I would do, which is finish the first game. And then the other one that I wanted to play just because it seemed more different at the time was Black Flag.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I've got. Either one of those I would love to play, but Origins would be my top choice for sure.
Yeah. So we'll think about it. We obviously got months of games to play before we get to that, but I
am actually on a bit of a gaming high though lately. I've been really happy with everything I've been playing, because I haven't really played all that much, I would say, in the last year, even outside of these Phoenix Down games.
Yeah.
I mean, I've dabbled with a lot of games, but I haven't put a lot of time in. I put a little more time in lately and enjoyed the games I've been playing. Plus the last, I felt really satisfied with Ocarina of Time and really, really enjoyed Yakuza. So I don't know. I just feel like everything right now is really good. I'm just really excited to play all these games.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, I mean that's I'm putting I'm putting mine in the hat. We don't have to do that one, but that is something that's been on my list for a little while now. So if you think of something else that you would like to do, we can easily do that as well.
And have you played any of it?
I have not even touched it, no.
That would be good.
I legit own every Assassin's Creed game and have only beaten 1 and 2 and made it about halfway through Brotherhood. I don't own Valhalla. So, there you go.
I do. I own very few of them, but that's one I do have.
There you go. So, I don't know. That's just a quick suggestion. Obviously, we've got a long time before we even get there and consider something. So, we may change our mind by that time. But, that's going to be it for us. I do appreciate everybody listening. Thank you so much for those emails. Keep them coming. And if anybody else out there is playing along with us, please send us an email. The email is drew@ztgd.com. You can also tweet to us. I am at Drew Leachman. Matt is at REMGS. And the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. But that's going to be it for us. I'm excited to see where we go. And keep an eye out on either my Twitter or the Phoenix Down Twitter. I will say in the coming week how far we're going to try to make it to for the next recording for anybody that is out there playing along with us, so that way we can avoid spoilers and stuff like that. But I'm excited. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, me too. So far I'm liking it.
Yeah, I am too. I want
to see where it goes, and even more than just the story, because that's always something that I'm keen to follow, but I really want to see where all these skills go and really set up a team and, build a team. I'm looking forward to just playing it. Really, I like the really the rings and everything that we kind of discussed about the combat, about the setup. Again, it's somewhat simple. I like the pace of it as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played a traditional RPG like this. So, excited to see how it holds up.
Yeah, intentionally old school.
Yep. But that's going to be it for us. We're going to get out of here. I do appreciate everybody listening. Until next time, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we're gone. You guys have a great week, and we will be back next week with an intermission show on the Internet Mysteries.